his body's aged, he thought, and brought his left hand up to touch cautiously the top of his head. There was blood on the base and bits of tissue or something. Maybe it was brain, thought George, detached, as he set the shell casing back on top of his handkerchief. He didn't like feeling so emotionless. Yet it was a relief, too, just as Carlyle's silence was a relief. They'd probably have to lock him up immediately, thought George. He was sure there wasn't any bail for murderers, and he didn't plan to explain himself either, which wouldn't help. He was curious about prison. They might put him in one of those new-fashioned places where you had a room instead of a cell and got to read and eat half-decent meals. He nodded to himself, thinking, becoming more and more certain that they wouldn't put a person of his advanced age into a maximum security facility. It might be quite an interesting experience, jail. No gardens there, though. There was some blood on the front of his sweater, too, he noticed. It ought to make him feel sick or panicky, but it didn't. He was quite tranquil. He remembered his daughter, Carol, asking when she was very young if he had ever been in jail. He had assured her vehemently that he had not, but her question had shaken him badly. He remembered that she'd been surprised and disappointed by his reply. She'd gotten the idea from somewhere that all men went to jail now and then. George had worried about their brief conversation for a long time. He tried to imagine now her adult reaction to his arrest and incarceration, and flinched. He deserved it, no question about that. But he saw the irony in it, and Carol, of course, would not. Carlyle's living room was drenched in sunshine. His body lay in it. The hardwood floor gleamed in it. There was a disquieting permanence in these moments, George thought. He was sure the sun would continue to shine steadily through the big window at precisely this angle. He was sure the earth had ceased its perambulations at last and come to rest forever at this specific point in its axis. George continued to rest on the Chesterfield, hands on his knees, and felt himself blinking stupidly at the sunshine, at the rocking chair, at the tall cabinet across the room which held a collection of china. There was no horror in the room, no disapproval. There was only the benign sunshine and the radiance of polished wood. The act of murder had apparently been swiftly absorbed, dispensed with. Even George's own body had adjusted to what it had done. This didn't seem proper. Something judgmental ought to be happening. But the soporific sun shone in, illuminating Carlyle lying there dead with no more emphasis than it shed upon the rocking chair, or the brass-based lamp on the end table, or George's hands resting on his knees. The man was dead. There was no doubt about it. There was an incontrovertible sense of absence in his stillness. George looked vaguely around the room and continued to sit quietly, waiting for some feeling to claim him. But nothing claimed him. Nothing choked his chest, not remorse or self-satisfaction. He was empty of all things important. He thought back to the moments of the murder. He could remember each second clearly, but the seconds didn't accumulate neatly in his mind to form a definable experience. He shouldn't have come here. He hadn't been in this house for months, and he certainly shouldn't have come today. He couldn't remember what Carlyle had said to persuade him. He couldn't remember walking here, but he remembered arriving. The front door was ajar. On either side of the concrete steps, wide and shallow, was a pot of lemon-scented geranium. They were terracotta pots. The door was ajar. Carlyle had a habit of doing things like that, leaving his doors